You don't have a long-term plan to actually win this war. When will you show
Why don't you
leadership?
show some leadership and stand up to your fellow Democrats who won't fund the troops?
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth recently told Congress that the Iran war has cost
$37.5 billion.
But that number doesn't tell the full story. There are hidden costs that the rest of us are paying, and none of that shows up in Hegseth's accounting. Let's start with the obvious one. Gas averages nearly $4 a gallon and much more in some states. According to a live tracker from Brown University's Climate Lab, Americans have already paid more than $75 billion extra in gasoline and diesel costs, about $570 per household since the war began. But the cost goes way beyond what you pay at the pump. Airline ticket prices have jumped nearly 27% in the last year, largely because of higher jet fuel prices. Amazon, UPS, FedEx, and the Postal Service have added temporary fuel surcharges, sometimes as high as 8%. And since trucks carry more than 70% of goods in the U.S., higher diesel prices work their way into almost everything on store shelves, including groceries. The price of some fertilizers have climbed 47%. And according to a survey by the American Farm Bureau Federation, about 70% of U.S. farmers said they were unable to afford all the fertilizer they need. In the U.S., that will probably mean higher food prices down the line. But in other parts of the world, the UN is warning that the war in Iran is driving historic levels of global hunger. One aid organization said it was forced to take from the hungry to give to the starving. Oil is also used to make plastics and petrochemicals, so higher prices are already working their way into things like stuffed animals, diapers, baby wipes, crayons, bottled water, soft drinks, and clothing. K-12 schools in the U.S. spend more than $8 billion a year on energy, their second largest expense after teacher salaries. Rising utility costs will likely strain already stressed public schools, which will have to divert money from other programs just to keep the lights on. And economists say the full impact hasn't hit us yet. Of course, there is also the cost in human life, which is incalculable. At least 18 U.S. service members have been killed and more than 100 wounded. In Iran alone, human rights groups have documented at least 1,700 civilian deaths, with the regional toll likely thousands more. And the cost of the war doesn't end when the last shot is fired. Veterans will draw care and disability payments for decades, costs that historically don't peak until 30 or 40 years after a war ends. U.S. stockpiles will need replenishing. Damaged American facilities in the Middle East, which are reportedly more expensive than the administration has acknowledged, will need to be rebuilt. Taken all together, $37.5 billion isn't anywhere near a final number. It's more like a down payment, one that all of us are making.